Who do you believe is the greatest Jewish figure in history?
Undoubtedly, it is Moses. He delivered the Torah to us. After his passing, the book of Deuteronomy 34:10 states, "Since then, no prophet has arisen in Israel like Moses."
Do you recall what Deuteronomy 18:15 says? It reads, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own people. You shall listen to him." Who do you think this prophet is?
Is he Joshua?
I can explain why Joshua isn't the next prophet. Deuteronomy 34:10 states, "Since then no prophet has arisen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." Moses performed signs and wonders in Egypt before Pharaoh, but Joshua did not perform any miracles of the same magnitude as Moses.
Then, who do you think the next prophet was?
I want to introduce Ralbag, or Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, 1288-1344, also known as Gersonides, a prominent Jewish philosopher and biblical commentator. He is most famous for his works in Jewish philosophy and his biblical commentary, which spans both the Torah and other books of the Hebrew Bible. The medieval commentator Ralbag, in his commentary on Deuteronomy, says, "The Messiah will be similar to Moses, or even surpass him, performing signs, wonders, and other related acts." This is the context for the statement of Deuteronomy 34:10, "Never again did there arise in Israel a prophet like Moses." He also said, "Behold, this is the prophet who will prophesy in Israel and among the nations. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, nor will he reprove by what he hears with his ears. Through his signs and wonders, the Lord will make a clear language known to the nations, so that all may call upon the name of the Lord and serve him with one heart. The greatest miracle he will perform, I believe, will be the resurrection of the dead, which he will reveal to the ends of the earth. And for this, all nations will come to believe in him."
What? He performed miracles of the resurrection of the dead?
Yes. Ralbag, in his commentary on Deuteronomy 34:10, said the Messiah would perform the miracle of resurrecting the dead.
Have other Jewish sages commented on the resurrection of the dead by the Messiah?
In Bereshit Rabbah 95:1 it reads, "Just as a person goes, so he will return. If he died blind, deaf, or mute, he will return blind, deaf, or mute. As he goes clothed, he will return clothed. God said, 'Let them rise as they went, and afterwards I will heal them.'" In the larger Jewish tradition, Midrash Rabbah is often understood to place the resurrection event in the framework of the Messianic era, where the Messiah's arrival marks the beginning of the resurrection process. Thus, although the Midrash does not directly connect this event to the Messiah by name, it is often interpreted in the Jewish tradition as occurring during the Messianic age. During the Messianic age, God will resurrect the righteous dead, Daniel 12:2-3. The Messiah will be instrumental in this process, as it will be through the Messiah's leadership and the coming of the redeemed world that the dead will be brought back to life. The Holy One, blessed be He, then places in them a spirit of life, and they arise. Bereshit Rabbah 96.
I've never actually seen or heard of anyone who can resurrect someone from the dead.
But I can tell you, in history, someone has resurrected people from the dead, and he himself was resurrected from the dead.
Can you tell me who he is?
Once a friend of Jesus lived in Bethany, near Jerusalem. He had died and had been in the tomb for 4 days. Jesus, who deeply loved him, went to his home. Standing before the grave, Jesus said, "Lazarus, come forth." To everyone's astonishment, Lazarus emerged from the tomb, still wrapped in his grave clothes. His hands and feet were bound, and his face was covered with a cloth. Jesus then said to those nearby, "Unwrap him and let him go free." He said to the people there, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live."
So, as Ralbag, the medieval scholar, suggested, the Messiah was prophesied to resurrect the dead miraculously, and indeed, Jesus fulfilled this prophecy.
Absolutely. He declared himself to be the resurrection and the life, possessing complete authority over life and death. Before his crucifixion, he boldly stated that he would raise his body on the third day, demonstrating his power over death. After 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, Jesus rose from the dead. His tomb became empty from that day on. He appeared to many of his followers.
How did the followers of Jesus come to understand him as greater than Moses after his resurrection?
After his resurrection, his followers gained a deeper understanding of his greatness. While Moses was the greatest prophet in Israel's history, Jesus' resurrection confirmed that he had divine authority far beyond that of Moses. Moses had foretold the coming of a prophet like himself. After Jesus' resurrection, his followers recognized that he was indeed this promised prophet, but far more excellent than Moses. Moses spoke on behalf of God, but Jesus spoke as the very Son of God. Moses led Israel out of physical slavery in Egypt, but Jesus led people out of spiritual slavery to sin. Moses performed miracles, yet Jesus' miracles were greater in nature. He exercised authority over creation, calmed storms, and walked on water. He raised the dead, and ultimately, his own resurrection was the greatest miracle, proving his power over death itself. Moses delivered Israel through the sacrifice of the Passover lamb, securing their physical redemption. But Jesus' followers came to understand that he was the true Passover lamb, whose sacrifice brought eternal deliverance from sin and death. His resurrection confirmed that his redemption was not temporary, like Moses' work, but everlasting.
How did the followers of Jesus gain a deeper understanding of the Messiah than the traditional view after his resurrection?
After Jesus' resurrection, his followers came to see Isaiah 53 in a profoundly new way, one that excluded other interpretations. Before his resurrection, one might have thought Isaiah 53 refers either to Israel as a suffering servant or to a righteous individual, such as a prophet or king, suffering on behalf of the people. However, after encountering the risen Jesus, Jesus' followers understood Isaiah 53 was a direct prophecy about the Messiah's suffering, death, and resurrection. Before, most Jews, including Jesus' followers, anticipated a messianic figure, a warrior king who would defeat the enemies and restore Israel's sovereignty. After the resurrection, they realized that the Messiah's mission first involved suffering, death, and atonement before ultimate triumph. Jesus' death was now seen in light of Isaiah 53, where the suffering servant takes on the people's sins. Before Jesus' death, his followers expected immediate political redemption. After the resurrection, they understood that the messianic mission was unfolding in 2 stages: his first coming to suffer and bring spiritual redemption, and his future return to fully establish God's kingdom on earth. The traditional Jewish view didn't see Isaiah 53 as predicting the resurrection of an individual, but after the resurrection, Jesus' followers recognized that Isaiah 53 predicted it, with verses like, "Though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied," showing that Jesus was killed, but then saw life again, proving the suffering servant did not remain dead.
Daniel 12:2 says, "Many of those whose bodies lie dead and buried will rise up, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting disgrace." Jesus says, "Whoever believes in me should have eternal life. I will raise them up at the last day." The Messiah offers you the gift of everlasting life today. Come to him, place your trust in him, and experience the transformation he brings. If you need guidance or support in your journey, feel free to reach out to us at info@lifeandmessiah.ca.